Hello, party people. And we're seeing lots of new faces on Recruiting Live this week. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Katrina Kibben. I know it says Ryan Leary. I still haven't figured out how to fix that. No judgment, please. I know I say it every week too, which probably makes it even worse that I haven't actually figured out how to fix it. But like I said, my name's Katrina Kibben. I'm the host of Recruiting Live. And for those of you who are new to the show, Recruiting Live is not a webinar. So if you're expecting slides or, us to hold up little papers with stats, that's not going to happen today. This is about answering your questions. We don't sit here and prepare. Don't ruin it for me. No.
Sorry.
We're not going to sit here and prepare a bunch of stuff because I really want you to guide the conversation. So two things you need to know about GoToWebinar. The first is audio. If you hear any choppiness, go to that audio pane, click telephone, and it'll give you all the dial-in information. That means you'll be able to hear a little better. And the other thing is using the question pane. So I want you to all go open the question pane right now. Send a hello. Just test it out because I don't want you to miss out on your chance to ask questions. We have one of the best in our industry here today. Somebody who's crazy smart, an amazing writer, and I just have so many nice things to say about you. His name is Pete Radloff. Pete, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself?
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm Pete Radloff. I'm the principal technical recruiter here at ComScore. We're a digital market research company. We see lots of stuff. I've been here for the last 3.5 years on my second go around here. I spent 4 years here previously. Time on the agency side prior to that. Like you said, I'm pretty passionate, almost in a hella dorky way about what I do. So, love talking about this kind of stuff, probably ad nauseum to some people, but it's really, I love what we do. I think it's a really interesting field.
Yeah, and I think, we have to be passionate about this.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of no's, right? So
yes.
In the end, it's all about making sure that we keep in mind that the best part, at least to me, is seeing candidates shine. Seeing them get the best job and knowing that we had some hand in that and helping their life, not just.
Yeah, and hearing no doesn't bother me. It's not dissimilar from my dating life before I got married.
Practice makes perfect, right?
That's it. That's it.
Lots of people saying hello and saying they're really excited to see you here today. Steve Levy wants to know where Mr. Ed is.
We had a Der Stallion sighting because Der Horse couldn't make it today.
Yeah. Which Der Stallion just cracks me up personally, but that's just me. All right, so we start these with one question that we've kind of prepared, and then of course I'm expecting your questions from here, because Pete, one of your specialties is strategic sourcing. So that area where it's not just trying to scope the corners of the internet, but actually getting that really, defined process and measurement strategy. And I think that's a place where we all flail a little, because there's 1,000 articles that'll tell you to do 1,000 different things.
Sure.
So let's start with how you define strategic sourcing and kind of the standards that you set for your team.
Yeah, I mean, I typically, and depending on how kind of oddball the rec is or the role is that I'm working on, I think kind of changes the game on that. Some of that stuff becomes really standard, and I can do some basic research on LinkedIn, use some extensions to be able to find contact information, reach out. But part of what I start off with that intake meeting too is who should I be looking for? Are there companies that you've seen good people come from before? Even with the manager, who do you know? Who's in your network? And I start with that basic stuff because I want them to start thinking about it from a recruiting perspective and not just expect that I'm going to magically drop rain from the sky. So I start with that piece, and then I look at, okay, I know where they need to come from. Where do those people hang out? And I think all of us have. None of us are strangers to LinkedIn, for better or for worse. But I think, the way I've started to use that now is really just a launch pad for, okay, I need to know who they are, what city they live in, and where they work, and everything else I can find on my own from there. To your point, it gets convoluted because, whereas 3 years ago there were 2 or 3 good Chrome extensions that you would use, there's 2,000 or 3,000 now. And I think it's when Dean's on, he's probably going to be able to run through 2,997 of those. I can't. I need to pick like 5 or 6 that I really like and roll with those because otherwise I'll spend 90% of my sourcing time just tinkering around in tools and not actually have any direction with that. So I always find it important to get, a handful of 4 or 5 tools that I feel really good with, and if I can't find anything within there, then I'll expand out. But you have your favorites. You have your stuff that you know how to work inside and out blindly.
Exactly. So I know somebody's going to ask this, so I'll just go
Yeah.
ahead. You have 5 or 6 tools that you love. Give me 2 that people on this call should try.
Profit for sure. I'm sure a lot of people are using that. I've definitely kind of scoped out a few more over the last few weeks. Connectify, I'm sure, is going to go the way of the dodo bird, much like Talentbin is when they got bought up. I think Profit is a really good one for people that I want to, look at on Riffle's a great one. Levy introduced me to that years ago for that, which I think is a great tool. But I've also looked at a couple of other ones. I think one of the other ones that I've been looking at recently that I've been tinkering with went offline for a while. It's called HireTool. It's HireTual. It went off a little bit, offline for they had some kind of issue a week or 2 ago, came back online, but it's another really good one to do that. So I'd say Profit. HireTool, Lucia's pretty good. I'm still not convinced that Lucia's got enough stickiness factor.
It also has some like shadiness behind the
It's got,
infrastructure that I haven't quite figured
yeah,
out. Yeah.
not something I want to meet in a dark alley.
Right.
But I think that those are probably the 3 that I use the most. But if you're going to use those Chrome extensions, you've got to use something like you got to use Extensity to be able to manage turning those on and turning those off. Otherwise, you'll just destroy your memory on Chrome.
Yeah. So our audio cut right when you said that's a tool that Levy told me about. What was that tool?
Lucia.
Lucia. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Riffle.
Oh,
Riffle was the
Riffle.
one. Yeah, because Riffle allows you to look at on Twitter, when you look at a Twitter profile, allows you to look at, common hashtags that person uses, who else they follow, what do they usually talk about. And if you can get involved, part of, I think the whole, let's recruit on Twitter is people think you're going to just send somebody a DM and they're going to come and, wear bells and whistles to your office. When in reality, what you're really doing when you're recruiting on Twitter is you're just immersing yourselves in the conversation that are happening around you, and you become a staple and people start to realize who you are. I have more people following me in the InfoSec community that I do very little recruiting in, but I sat there for 2 days tweeting about B-Sides Las Vegas, and now I've got a whole bunch of people following me from that conference because I actually hopefully added some value to the content there.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that's kind of the point, right? Like we should be connecting with candidates. I mean, yeah, connect with our peers, but really the focus should be candidates and actually building up that long game so that you're not, when you decide to strategically source, it's not the first time you're talking to them.
Well, right, and you want to have an advocate out there in the community for you who's like, no, he's not just another donkey recruiter. I think you want to have somebody who's non-biased, not in your industry, that can vouch for you.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, just looking through these questions. David, he's on, of course. Nicola, he said he totally digs HireTool. Do you want to give like a 1 sentence about what HireTool does for anybody who's on that doesn't know?
Yeah, it's similar to a lot of the other plugins where it'll sit on the side of your your screen. Again, I've been playing with that kind of intermittently, but it sits on the side of your screen. As you land on a social profile, it'll pull up other places they have a Twitter account, do they have a GitHub account, do they have a blog or email. It pulls back email. I haven't seen as much with phone, but email is probably one of the better ones. I'm a big Profit homer, but I think the HireTool has done a pretty good job, I think, of consistently pulling back some emails, and hopefully with the snafu that they had a week or 2 ago, that doesn't impact it. I haven't been able to reset it live again, but it's very similar to the other ones. You can get it in the Chrome store, just an extension that bolts on, but you can manage to turn it on and off if you're using something like Extensity.
Yeah, and as far as cost, we won't go through each tool, but just go to the Chrome store and it'll direct you, and it'll tell you kind of the keys and keys.
I don't have to pay for these.
Yes.
Yeah, nobody's got an unlimited budget.
Exactly. So Ellie Cohen's on. Thank you so much for being here, Ellie. And she said, do these tools mess you up with LinkedIn? Like, will they discover and penalize you? I know, actually, David was saying that he was in, LinkedIn jail this week.
He was in LinkedIn jail this morning, yeah. Yeah, it all depends, right? I think, for those that have a recruiter seat, you still get that full access to the whole platform for LinkedIn right now. That said, I actually transferred my seat to one of the other recruiters here who's here with us on a contract gig, and I gave it to Ian. And as soon as I did that, anything I started clicking from the extensions kept telling me I had too many times coming into a profile from off of LinkedIn's platform, and it wouldn't let me see the profile. So, LinkedIn's going to have to work that out. I think at the end of the day, I think LinkedIn has two ways they can go. They can either completely shut everybody off who's using these extensions and not allow them any access, or they're going to have to learn to play nice in the sandbox and realize that people using these extensions will continue to use LinkedIn's platform because it's a way to gather more data. And we're not going to not stop going to LinkedIn. Anybody that tells you they're never going to use LinkedIn again is an out-and-out liar.
Exactly.
But there's different ways to use it, and I think LinkedIn would be best served, and I don't know if the acquisition changes this, but I think they would be best served to learn how to play nice in the sandbox with these extensions that are actually, when you think about it, probably driving traffic to their site more than not.
Yeah. Well, I saw an article yesterday from, I think it was MediaBot, that said that LinkedIn is trying to sue the scrapers and
Yep.
cut off all of it. So it sounds like they're taking the opposite approach of your recommendation.
I wonder how much of that is them versus how much of that is somewhat Microsoft driven. And I wonder what Microsoft's take on that is going to be. Microsoft is big on making sure they have continually engaged users. It's going to be a Microsoft product now. Do you want these users continually engaged, or do you want them circumventing the platform altogether?
Right. And David said, I wonder if Microsoft recruiters are ever tossed into LinkedIn jail. Probably not now, but before.
Probably not anymore.
Yeah. He just got out of jail this morning.
It's 24 hours is up.
Welcome to the good side.
Yeah.
So one of our new employees actually here at Recruiting Daily, Alexis Gingerella, she's been looking for new recruiting. She's learning the industry. And so her question is, what if you've found a really good candidate, but all they have is Facebook? How are you going to reach out to them if they're really only on Facebook?
Somewhere, somehow, they have an email.
Yep.
They have an address. They have a phone number listed somewhere. That's where something like a low-cost thing, like what is it, a couple bucks a month for something like a Spokio comes in really handy. Where you get real, almost, and I'm going to date myself here, like white pages information on somebody. Where you can actually get their email address and their address and their phone number, right? The phone book, and things we use to just kind of stand up a little taller for us short people now. So I think you can find something like that. I would be highly skeptical of it being real if they only had a Facebook profile. That's usually kind of a secondary type of thing, right? But again, that's where kind of being kind of innately curious comes in handy too. Are you going through any available pictures they've got in the public profile there? Is there anything in the background that can tell you where they're from? Is there anything that tell you, is anybody they're standing next to wearing a shirt of where they work? And then you then find them there and then get an email address and reverse engineer the email address based on that. You have to be, it's kind of part, sourcing is half where in the world is Carmen Sandiego and half where's Waldo. And you have to be able to really go through the minutia detail in the background of what you're looking at to see, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? And so I think that's really interesting. It's a really good question, though. I'd love to be posed with that issue of I can only find a Facebook profile for somebody. I'd love to find that.
Yeah, and have them not be a catfish.
Yeah, right, exactly. So 50-50 shot.
Awesome. So, by the way, I love that line about half Carmen Sandiego, half Where's Waldo, because I always use that line when I talk about candidates finding your job. It's the hardest game of Where's Waldo ever. Because candidates come into it and 250,000-ish jobs are posted every month.
Yep.
So if you expect them to find your one job, what are you going to do with that job to make it stand out to them? Sure. Without without the hat, without the shirt.
Yep.
What are you going to do? So lots of comments here. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up. There's literally 50 rolling in. I think it's Tatiana. If I butcher anyone's name, give me a break. But she said, what are your best personal email finding sources? She's an in-house recruiter, and she doesn't like to email on corporate addresses.
Okay. Why? Why wouldn't you want to email a corporate address? If you're not going to go to
the whole perception, I don't want to bother you at work.
Well, I mean, you're not going to go trick-or-treating at somebody's like summer house. You're going to go to the house that they live in on Halloween.
That's a good point.
So what if they, they don't check their Hotmail, their LinkedIn's connected to their Hotmail or whatever, and they check that like once a year. Like I want to go to the one that they have to open up at 8 o'clock in the morning when they walk into the office. You
Yeah.
can, I would be just a little bit more discreet with your subject line. I might not be like new career opportunity at ComScore. I might say like, hey, love to, how about the, I don't know, whatever, see the Olympics last night or something like that. Something that's a little less, maybe that's a bad example, but you get the idea of what we're doing with that. As far as favorite email tools for verification, I use Mail Tester, and I like Email Hunter, which is a plugin for LinkedIn, which I'm sure LinkedIn will kill off eventually since it sits right on the actual profile page. But Mail Hunter's been very far and few between fail for me for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. Levy added, send the email really early or like try to catch them at off times too. So
Yeah.
I've done that. I like to send emails even for marketing side 5 a.m. because I know that I'll
Yeah.
be first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're just getting up or like 7 a.m. or 8. So I want to be at that moment right when you sit down at your laptop. That's when I want to come through.
The vast majority of emails that I send out to people for a first approach are probably between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. So that, like you said, their Google alert email comes in, their email from their wife about pick up milk and bread and eggs from the store tonight, and then my email. So the top 3 emails they see are going to be the ones they're going to look at as soon as they walk through the door with their coffee.
Exactly. Chris Smith adds, I like to use titles like expertise request. I
Yep.
think that's a good play on ego because they're
Sure.
like, oh, somebody wants to talk to me. I know I
Yep.
click on those. Not, yeah. David said he schedules his emails to go out super early. Do you ever schedule emails?
I haven't. I think it would probably depend on just how much volume I had to do. Like if I had a number of positions I had to do this for, I might start scheduling some of them a little bit more. But I tend to kind of grab a number of profiles and then do a first pass, like, okay, these are the 20 I want to reach out to, and then go through them 1 through 20 and craft the email after each one. I really try to, I know we say personalize all the time, but I really try to not cut and paste if I can avoid any part of it. I think maybe just the last part of like, here's my email and direct line if you want to chat a little bit more, maybe that I copy and paste in, but try to be more specific to the person. Again, to stand out, but also to stroke their ego a little bit. Who doesn't want to be wanted?
Of course, of course. Tracy says, my company doesn't allow us to email corporate email addresses. I've never heard that.
How do they know?
I would love a little more explanation on that, but
Yeah,
that's
I would too.
her input.
I would be curious about that too, because I think, so do they not want you to hire? Or do they,
Why put hurdles in front of hiring?
yeah, you're talking about a 60 to 70% response rate when you go direct to somebody, and it's an anecdotal number, but versus 25 to 32% when you do it through an email.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to play the gambling game that has less odds for me.
Yeah. You just came back from Vegas.
I did. Won a few bucks too.
Exactly. So Robert Cassidy has a really great question, and this is a great question for you as kind of a manager of a team. He said, can either of you break down your usual day and what your workflow looks like? I'm trying to get a better idea of time management and where to put my energy.
So, okay, I'll give you kind of skinny on a day for me. So, normal day, I'm usually in between 7:15 and 7:30 in the morning. Rest of my company shows up somewhere between 8:30 and 10 o'clock. So I have like an hour and a half to sit and just like clean up my email, do whatever sourcing I need to do, get those emails out the door, so that I can focus on firefighting through the day. Then once I've gotten the initial sourcing emails out, I run through, I see what's in the ATS from the night before, have I gotten anything that looks really good, because if somebody applies, I'm going to get a better response from them if I respond to them within 12 to 24 hours than if I just let it sit and linger in the box for a week. So I'll do that. Then from there, I kind of run down anything that didn't get taken care of from yesterday. I use Evernote as my Bible, my to-do list. So anything in my life that needs to happen inside or outside of work goes in Evernote or it's forgotten. And that's just because I'm getting old and my brain doesn't work like it used to. So I'll go through the to-do list of anything I didn't get to yesterday. I have anywhere between 6 and 10 screens in a given day on a busier day. So I'll run through those for the day, answer emails in between those calls. I'm spending 15 to 30 minutes depending on how well the call's going. And kind of take it from there. So I'll start with the sourcing piece, tackle any fires that come up, do my calls, and then firefight in between. I mean, half of our job is firefighting at the end of the day. Logistics that fall apart or people that cancel on something or whatever the case is.
Exactly. And I would add, like, for me, having a big list, I always have the big list and I schedule things. I use Basecamp, so I really like being able to just like put things in little projects and move it out. And also because when I say I'm going to follow up with someone on Thursday, I need that reminder. And I don't want my calendar to be littered with like, call so-and-so or send this message. And then every night at the end of the night, I have a little notebook that I keep or like a Post-it note on my desk, and I write down 3 things that I have to do the next day.
Yep.
So
I bold the 3 most important things that I have to take care of first thing tomorrow.
Yep. And okay. So I'm just going to go through these comments because we're getting so many great ones. Steve says Spokio is the best tool for sourcing. And I mean, what makes it the best? I'll let you answer that.
It does pull back information from anywhere. I mean, it's a living database of everybody that lives in the country, and you might have to sift through a few records to make sure you've actually got the right one. But I'm not sure if they're pulling it. I assume a lot of it comes from public records. I'm sure it comes from other places. Hell, it might even come from the white pages if they even still make those. I don't know. But I think it's a tool that gives you some more robust information. And part of sourcing is being able to pick up the breadcrumb trail, right? So I can tell from LinkedIn their name, the city they live in, the company they work for, what school they went to. Spokio maybe give me something like, oh, they don't live in that city anymore. They've moved, but if we neglected to update their LinkedIn profile, maybe I don't reach out to them now because they live in Oshkosh versus Tampa. So I think that has a lot to do with it, and it's a low-cost tool. You're not talking about. I mean, I forget what the cost is. It's maybe it's $50 a year or something like that. I don't remember what I paid last auto renew, but
okay. I was just responding that it's very low cost to those who are asking for the pricing. Another question from Ivan. So do you use, and he suggested, like, I know HubSpot has one of these tools, Yesware, when you email candidates so you know when they open it.
I just made a note to myself this week. Somebody had also mentioned that to me, and I'm like, I need to do that if I'm gonna be kind of getting a better sense of actually people are even reading this. So there's just something I need to tinker around with. I have not been traditionally as good with that.
Yeah. And so here's my thing though. So if I know that they opened it, what's your follow-up on that? Because I think it's a little creepy to be like, I just saw you open my email. I hate those emails. So how do you use that for intelligence while you're being emotionally intelligent?
Okay, so they opened it, right? So they know who you are. Now, they may have opened it and deleted it right away. It happens all the time, right? Basically, any agency vendor email I get. So you can have it like that. But then if you know they've opened it, but they're active on Twitter, why aren't you kind of hovering around those conversations and becoming top of mind to them again? Like, oh, right, that guy sent me an email. I should respond back. And I think that top of mind is an overused term, but boy, is it really, it is as true as it was 15 years ago. When somebody's thinking about you, then you're going to get a response back.
Yeah, exactly. Levy added he uses Streak and Contact Monkey for these purposes.
For email or, for email?
For the notification.
Okay.
So, and he also said it's really interesting because when they open the email multiple times, it'll notify you that it opened it multiple times, so then you can find something else to talk to them about. Like, you don't have to, as Audrey just said, you don't have to say, like, you were top of mind, because really they know that means stalking.
Well, and I think, too, if they open it several times, maybe that's the indicator that they're having a really shitty day and they're hedging on, like, shit, do I go and talk to this recruiter because I hate my boss today? Do I do it? Do I do it? Do I do it? I think that might be an indicator as well. But, it's a good that you brought that up. Like, Mike Wolford was talking about something yesterday. I saw it on a Facebook post that, he keeps track of all the activity that he does going into sourcing. in the event that there is no results that come out of his sourcing efforts, he's got to be able to prove what he did. And at least with that, something like those tools, you can now see like, oh, I saw somebody open the email, I just haven't been able to find a way to get them to respond to me yet. But you can track your activity on sourcing, which I think is important, because if you don't come up with anything, you need to be able to at least show your work. It's like math, right?
Exactly. And it's a funnel. They really do need to understand that, like, to get to one candidate, I have to find 300.
Sure.
Like, to get and understanding how it narrows at each level too can just help the hiring manager be on your team. Because if they don't see any of that, all they see is the 30, they don't really understand why it took you 2 weeks.
Well, and if they have to come to you and ask for the update, you're doing it wrong. You need to be providing them like, hey, I have my update is I have no update for you right now. That you'll be surprised for how many days that will satiate the average hiring manager.
Yes.
Just like knowing that somebody is thinking of them.
Says, thanks.
Yes, that's it.
Some people love that. Some
Yeah.
people don't. But at the same time, it's a good way of just being like, got it.
Yeah,
It's calling the ball in the air.
Basically. You got it.
Exactly. So here's a question from Jenny. And Jenny, tell me if I'm getting this wrong, because I'm kind of rephrasing you. But, like, do you ever get sidetracked and feel like your head's spinning because you're like, this role, this, that? So she's asking, how do you stay focused? And she said, or is that not as important? Is more information really better?
What? Yeah, of course. I'll be working on something and I'll get an email from a hiring manager going, oh, I'm really like dying over here. I just had somebody else quit today. I'm like, oh, let me shift over to that one. And I sometimes have to like, because I'm type A. I'm a people pleaser. I want to take care of all my hiring managers. I want them all to have satiation and feel like they've gotten what they need. But I've had to also get it better disciplined at shutting off my email, turning off my IM when I'm going into sourcing mode. I have to get away from it because I will try to respond to everything all at once and it will never work and I'll always wind up having to start from scratch again. I've lost days just getting sidetracked on something.
Oh, yeah. You and me both. So, I've narrowed it down, and I don't know that this would work for a sourcer or a recruiter, but like I check my email 3 times a day. I have to turn it off otherwise, or else I just keep getting sidetracked on little things, and it becomes like I'm doing this instead of accomplishing the 10 things I have to do.
Yeah, the multi-monitor world is simultaneously the best and worst thing that's ever happened to me because now I can have twice as many windows open.
Exactly. So Tatiana had another question about certifications. So she said she sees that you have an AIRS certification. Are there ones that you would recommend for a junior recruiter, that or others?
I don't know. I struggle with how relevant AIRS still is these days. I kind of feel there was a little bit of a drop-off once ADP bought them and all that. So I feel like there's other certifications or trainings out there. You have recruiting toolbox. You have Searchologist, Katrina. You have Johnny Campbell's site. I think some of these things are probably the air stuff was very good for theoretical and a little bit of tactical stuff. I feel like the training that's out there on these other companies today is much more hands-on tactical. And applicable for somebody to be able to bring back the next day. I felt like after AIRS, while they were really good and I definitely pumped them and pushed them to teams that I worked with, I felt like I still needed to do like 3 days of work afterwards to kind of digest everything. Whereas I've seen some of the things when Recruiting Toolbox came and hosted here at ComScore, standing in on some of those, I was like, oh my God, like people can leave right now, go back to their desk and implement that. And that's, I think, what people need, and that's what people look for in these conferences, which it's hard to do in a 45-minute session. You almost need a 2-day training hands-on to be able to apply it, fail, and then figure it out.
Yeah.
So the certifications I think are helpful, but it's an additional bonus.
Exactly, and a lot of people are echoing that AIRS is pretty expensive, and it's a good kind of foundation. So maybe it is good for a junior recruiter, maybe not so much for somebody who's like, I need to run out and go find this person. Like if you're very much in the action, it sounds like you might want to take a different path on training.
Yeah, if you need the 8 a.m. 100 level course, AIRS is a good place to start.
Got it. Cool. I can't believe it. That's our time. And I have so many more questions here, so I'm gonna have to like export the report and send it your way, and we can like divide and conquer to send all of these messages
Yeah,
back.
or yeah, people can hit me up on Twitter, whatever, shoot me something on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. You and I know each other quite a while, and I'm pretty happy to spend time with people. The better we all get at this profession, the less the less crap we all take.
Exactly. And I would add, like, join the secret sourcing group on Facebook.
Yeah,
Join Recruiters Online. There are a ton of really, really good places where you can just ask questions, just like we're doing here, but on, a Facebook scale. So Pete, you just said how people can contact you, LinkedIn, Twitter, email, all that fun
yeah, you're
stuff.
right. Yeah, just don't. If you're a recruiter, don't call me and ask me for my email because you should be able to find it.
Exactly. Do your work.
That's right.
And make sure that you tune in, of course, to Recruiting Live again next week. We have Carrie Mills on the line. She is a sourcing grandmaster. Is that what they call them?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
SourceCon Challenge winner.
A super duper sourcer who has literally beat other people on these. So you'll want to make sure to dial in. It's actually going to be on Thursday instead of Friday next week. So I'll make sure that all the messaging says that. And if you guys need anything, you know how to find me too. And if you don't know how to find me, it's time for a new job. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Pete, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll thank
Have a good
everyone,
weekend, everybody.
on behalf of everyone else, I'll thank them for you answering the questions
Thanks.
later. And I'll see everybody next week.
All
Thanks.
right, take care.